Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience in the military, specifically the part that everybody asks me about all the time. It's probably the number one question I get. Have I ended someone's life? The answer is yes. And I'm going to explain that in this video, talk about what it was like, because it's all sort of tied into my experience and my journey with the military, why I left, why I joined, and all of that stuff. So let's start at the beginning. A couple years ago, I started to get really interested in true crime podcasts, like I think everybody else did at the time, 2017 through 2020, really. I was very interested in that kind of stuff, so I was gobbling all that up. My Favorite Murder, Case File, all of it. And I think it's because that stuff sort of fascinates us collectively as a species. We sort of have the morbid curiosity part of our brain, where you're driving along and you see a car accident and you kind of take a little look because you're kind of hoping that you see somebody who got their head chopped off or something, even though that would be horrible. And of course, we all know that that's horrible. We're still curious. So I would be listening to these podcasts and I would hear people describe the various ways that people had been killed and tortured and all of this stuff. And of course, on the surface, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. But then deep down, part of me was like, I was kind of intrigued a little bit. And I have throughout my life sort of had a very complicated relationship with sexuality and all of that stuff. So I think part of me was like, I wonder if, I got to be very, very careful how I explain this, because sometimes I explain it a certain way and people really misinterpret what I'm saying and they get really freaked out. I don't want to say that I was turned on by the true crime podcast, because I think that's a reductive way to say it. But there was definitely a sexual element to it. I would hear people describe these things, these violent things. And like I said, on the surface, I'm like, oh my gosh. But then deep down, I'm like, kind of, I don't know. I guess I kind of got turned on by it. I don't know. I mean, it made me a little horny. Is that a crime? No, it's not, because it's just in my head, right? So I can be attracted to whatever I want. That sort of became, at first I kind of pushed that thought out of the way. You sometimes people have these thoughts, and I'm sure you've all had thoughts like this too. And you just kind of go like, all right, you go over there, we're going to put you over here. We're going to put you away and we'll just, if you make any ruckus, then we'll check on you every once in a while. But, but it wouldn't go away. The thought would not go away. And so I kept thinking, well, not that I wanted to try it, but just that, I guess I did want to try it. I don't know. I mean, I guess like I said, I was curious, so I thought, I just wonder what it would be like, morbid curiosity. I wonder if I'm capable of it. I wonder if people are born with sort of with that, like Ted Bundy. Was Ted Bundy born as Ted Bundy, or did he become Ted Bundy because of the things that happened? And how many of us, if we did something like that, how many people that we see every day would be capable of that and just have never found themselves in the situation, basically? So, I started to think, it was a very lonely time in my life. And I had just gotten dumped, and so I was alone. I lived alone, and on my head would go to all sorts of places. I really didn't go outside very much. I didn't talk to people much. I kind of stayed on my computer just had a very internal life. And when that happens, you sort of spiral into yourself a little bit, and your brain goes to these very strange places. And I could not turn off the voices. I couldn't. I thought that part of me that wanted to do it, I couldn't turn it off. And so I was like, you know what? Again, I have to be very, very careful how I explain this. I started small, because I just wanted to see what it was like. Again, I was curious. So I don't want to get into the details of this because I'm pretty sure that would get the video taken down. But I started with things that weren't that big of a deal, just to see what would happen. And I was like, it gave me a little bit of it gave me a pep in my step when I would do these things. And so I said, okay, well, I tried that. Let's go a little further now. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I can't go any further what's a way that I can do this without it being a problem, and without it being immoral, and without it, maybe even if there's a way to do it in a way that would help society, And that's what led me to the idea of joining the military, because I thought, well, if I'm in the military, I can do this, and it won't be it'll help people, I guess, So I went through I was always kind of a wimpy guy. I was, I was spaghetti arms over here, I was never really a jock. I wasn't very good at sports. I wasn't very athletic or physical. I didn't work out much. So I was a little worried about that aspect of it, but mostly what I thought would be nice is that I thought it would make me more masculine, because as I'm sure you've been able to tell, I'm not the most masculine guy in the whole world. So I thought maybe the military would help me with that. And I also thought that, it would just make me kind of more in better shape, because I didn't really like my body at the time. And it would just it would harden me, put some hair on my chest. And obviously when you join the military, you can't straight up be like, hey, so listen, when do we get to actually get some action here? So you just got to kind of wait and see what happens. And what was really interesting was that when I got there, I started to realize that there were a lot of people who were in a similar situation as me. You sort of have these late night conversations in the bunks, and you get to talking and you say, yeah, I've been dealing with these kind of thoughts, and I've been thinking about these things, and it's I'm curious. I'm just curious. And a lot of people were in the same boat. And so we would say, okay, well, let's try some stuff out, next time we're doing something, let's try some stuff, and it sort of fell under our general responsibilities, because we were over in, I don't want to get too specific about what we were doing and where we were, because I think a lot of it's kind of classified, and also I just don't want people to find my, who I served with and all those people, and then try to go in deep into my background. Believe me, I do not want people going in my background. But basically, it was like we were in a certain area. We had a vague objective, and it would be like little small objectives throughout the day. I never really at any point knew why we were there in the first place or what we were supposed to be doing. I think that there was really no reason, and we weren't really supposed to be doing anything. So they would give us little things to do that kind of just busy work, to occupy our time. And so we would do things that we felt technically fell under our responsibilities. And again, I gotta just be careful here. I don't want to be too specific. You know what? I think that I'm not gonna explain any more details of this part. let's just say that there were some things that happened that were, some things happened. And I honestly, part of me was hoping that at some point I would be really horrified, or that I would have I would be like, oh my gosh, that was terrible. I don't want to do this anymore. But that did not happen, you know? And that was even more horrifying, I think, than it would have been if I had regretted it, or if I had felt bad, you know? So after a while, I sort of said, okay, you know what? I'm going to pull the plug on this, because I think that it's just kind of like when you have a scab and it feels good to itch it, but you're just causing more damage. So you just got to try your best to leave it alone. That's what I started to realize I had to do. So I left. I said, you know what? Let's put a drain in this tub, you know. And I went home, and I kind of have been trying to acclimate back to normal life, which has been a struggle, you know. And so, basically, I've been talking with my therapist about it, and I've been very open and honest. And my therapist has been telling me, you know, just make sure that kind of stuff stays in your head. Write it down in a journal. I have a journal where I write all this stuff down. You know, as long as you don't, there's nothing wrong with thoughts. It's actions that are the problem. So as long as these thoughts stay in here and they don't leap out into the real world any more than they already have, then we're fine. You know, we're good. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So yeah, I guess that's the story. I don't know. I mean, if anybody else has any questions, feel free to ask me, but I think I kind of gave you the gist of it, and I'm really hoping that I tried to be very careful and not say anything that was against the rules. So I'm very, very sorry if you know, I hope this video doesn't get taken down, because I'm just trying to be honest, you know, and I'm trying to give people an insight into a world that maybe they wouldn't normally be get an insight into. So yeah. Okay. I guess that's it. Bye-bye.